Get a water.
There's going to be someone throwing a seat over here. It's not going to happen. Not today.
Good evening. We'd like to call the Tuesday, December 2nd, 2014 City of Oldsmar City Council meeting to order. At this time, if you would please rise for our invocation and our pledge, which will be led by our city attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Our Father in heaven, we ask for your special blessing this Christmas season on all those assembled here tonight. We especially pray for the well-being and health of people throughout the world who are suffering from conflict, illness, hunger, and other human tragedy. May all men and women who are less fortunate than we are be ever in our hearts during this season of joy and love. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and once again, welcome. Happy holidays to everybody. I do want to take this second to let you know as we get started that this is the only meeting that we will have in December. We will not be having the December 16th meeting, so happy holidays to everybody. Our first item on tonight's agenda is the Citizens Open Forum. It gives you a chance to address the council. We only have a couple of rules: that you keep it to no more than 5 minutes, that you state your name and address clearly for the record, and if it is a public hearing item that is on the agenda, we would ask that you wait until that time. Otherwise, you can get up and speak on anything, even if it's on the agenda. With that, let's start with this side of the room. Anybody like to address the council? Anybody on this side of the room like to address the council? Either one. You can fight it out. We have a lot of police here tonight, though. May the best man win.
Mark Opid, 101 State Street West, Suite 2, with the Oldsmar Historical Society. I'd like to invite everybody coming, not this Saturday, because that's the bike thing for the Sheriff's Department, but next Saturday, we're going to have Gary and Sandy Sears come in as guest speakers for our meeting. And Gary has been Santa Claus for over 25 years. And he will share how the Santa Claus program got started and some experiences that he's had over the years. And it'll be upstairs right here next door at 10 a.m. on December 13th.
Thank you. Is that going to be on our website, do you know? Will we post that, or? Yeah, thanks. Dave?
Dave Tilke, 505 Arlington Avenue East. I'm here tonight speaking kind of on behalf of the Hope for the Warriors program, which many of you got familiar with at our Veterans Day ceremony. It's a group that I won't say I've been associated with them. I've been familiar with them for 6-8 months now, and they've really impressed me with all that they do. What you saw at Veterans Day ceremony was Team Tampa, which is a part of the Hope for the Warriors program that uses athletic type events to help these people get out of their wheelchairs, get out of the rooms that they're in, you know, and help assimilate them back into society, and I think it's a great group. One thing that came up after the ceremony was we heard some discussion. We were talking about raising money for that group. She was telling you that some special wheelchairs for some of the racers cost $11,000, or the special bikes cost all this money, or entry fees into these different races and everything. It does add up to quite a bit of money, and it is all donations. And some of you were saying something like, well, why don't we do a race in Oldsmar and help raise some money for them? Well, the Hope for Warriors program people and a local race director are both extremely interested in putting on a race here in Oldsmar, a 5K run, everything benefiting the Hope for the Warriors program. They're thinking about Memorial Day, but that's all up in the air right now, and possibly piggybacking on the Freedom Fest event and all that's going to be going on. I'm here on both of their behalfs just to make sure that if in fact we proceed and start the legwork for all this, that we would have full city support for this event. sometime in the spring, a 5K race to benefit the Hope for the Warriors program.
Well, I can tell you personally that I think there was a awful inspiring event that we had out there, and those guys were great. It made me feel so out of shape it wasn't even funny, but I know you've got my support, and I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Meeting. Absolutely.
I mean, it's something that obviously has to be coordinated, with the city and things
Absolutely,
like that.
but
yeah, I think it'd be a great thing for the city and for the organization as well.
I think this should be either Memorial Day or Veterans Day. It should be during one of those days and not Freedom Fest. We need to have that between Memorial Day or Veterans Day.
Freedom Fest is Memorial Weekend.
but it's not on that,
Right.
not on Monday.
Right.
It needs to be on that day.
Oh.
Either one of those days. I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
Dave, is that with Fred? Is Fred the local director that you were talking
Well,
about?
he didn't want his name thrown out here yet,
I didn't
but,
say his last name. Okay.
you know, this is the race director that brought 1,500 people to State Street for the first tap house run on a
think it's
Friday night in the middle of August.
Yeah, I think it's a great event. So, and if you did do it the Memorial Weekend, you could, plug it over the event and all that, and then have people come out. Yeah, I love the idea. So,
All right, so I will
you
let
got
them,
4/5 of the council support, I think.
I will let them know that we can move forward and start bringing some more information to you to see how it'll work out.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Anybody else on that side of the room? Anybody else in the room that I did not see like to address the council? Seeing no one, we'll close the Citizens Open Forum. A couple of months ago, we started the Mayor's Minute. It gives me a chance to kind of go over some things while people are here. If you missed it tonight, we had our first inaugural tree lighting ceremony. It was something that was brought up a week ago. And thanks to Carrie from the city who built the switch that we use to throw the power on, and our Citizen of the Year, Ann Nixon, that helped do it. But for 1 week's notice, we had quite a turnout, and I think it's something that we can build on. So hopefully next year we'll have a better turnout. Christmas Wonderland, I want to let you know, is this coming Friday at R.E. Olds Park. It starts at dusk. Santa's supposed to arrive my notes show it from the North Pole at about 6 o'clock. We also have the Mayor's Breakfast that morning at Nielsen. It's myself and the Mayor of Safety Harbor. Raising money for charity. That's a great event as well. So if you get a chance to do that, tickets are on sale at the Chamber as well as the City Clerk's office, but the Chamber's probably the easiest. I have previewed the video, but myself and the Mayor of Safety Harbor did, and it's hysterical. So if you come out for nothing else, come out for that. On Saturday, we have the bike rodeo that benefits the Holiday Sharing Fund, and that's happening right next to City Hall. Here, right next to the council chambers. It goes from 10 till 1 o'clock. If you do not have bikes, you can bring them out there. We will have bikes for the kids to try. We've got an obstacle course. I believe we register bikes and things like that. So it's a great event and way to learn about bicycle safety. And that's about all that I have for that. Our next item is our consent docket. We have 4 items on there. Approve the minutes of the September 3rd, 2014 City Council meeting. Approve ranking and authorize the city manager to negotiate a contract for general engineering services for transportation and stormwater. Authorize the city manager to advertise for bids for soil materials for the fill dirt for the BMX track. Yay, yay, yay. And 4 is waive the bidding requirement and authorize the city manager to extend contract with Gator Grading and Paving for the annual street resurfacing. Does anybody wish to pull anything? If not, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next is the City of Oldsmar, and the first item is the presentation of the Oldsmar Business of the Quarter. They are out of town and asked that we move that, so we will move that to the first meeting in December. Our next item is the presentation of the Employee Service Award.
January, Mayor.
I'm sorry, January, and our city manager, Mr. Bruce Haddock, will be doing that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased this evening to present a 15-year service award to Mike Hurley.
In the back?
Mike is back running the cameras, so here he comes. Are we on autopilot?
This morning, I started to ask you if you were going to be here tonight, but I figured you were, since it's 15th anniversary, and I had to work. Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, you're here at quite a few Tuesday night meetings. Uh-huh. So you left the record on, didn't you? Is someone back there Nobody's back there. It's on automatic.
Just set a long shot and hopefully the recorders keep it.
Okay, should I look at one of the cameras in particular, or we're covered?
1-4.
Okay. Which one's 4?
Not there.
All right, over there. Okay, well, okay, you know, there's a check that comes along with this.
It's paying for my cruise.
I know you'll enjoy it.
Sure.
Service award in recognition for 15 years of service to the city of Oldsmar, presented to Michael Hurley, 1999 to 2014. You can go ahead and tap that.
Thanks.
And you, I think, were here once this year already, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
You were kind of not an award recipient. You were here when Susan got her award, right?
I think so.
And, you know, I can't remember all these facts as well as I used to. And was Susan getting a 10-year award, wasn't it?
Yes.
And so you worked here about 5 years longer.
Good math.
Yeah, I did that in my head. But is Susan here tonight?
No, she's working.
Okay, just like you. Yeah.
We're city employees.
Yeah, we appreciate your dedication, and that's why we can help you celebrate a 15th year anniversary. That's certainly a milestone. And it's a lot really to cover in 15 years. I know that when you first came to work for the city of Oldsmar, you worked at the water reclamation facility.
Yep, late 99, early 2000.
And not a whole lot longer after that, then you came to work in IT, administrative services, information technology. I don't remember what year. That was in 2000?
Yeah. Marty Burns was the assistant city manager. She took a chance on a misfit kid from the plant. The rest is history.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody ever told you this, but, you know, what really impressed us was that you had a degree in geography.
That's true, yes.
It's been pretty useful, hasn't it?
So far, yeah.
Yeah. Well, somewhat relate to that, although I like geography. It's one of my favorite subjects. I like maps, too. You knew that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Mike's current job is GIS analyst and database specialist, or something like that. So very, very nice title.
I like it.
Yeah. But anyway, as you might can tell, that Mike and I think, to some degree, and we've said this before, we have a similar warped sense of humor. So we enjoy working together. Well, I do. I'm not sure how much he enjoys it, but the projects I
Whatever
give him.
you say, Mr. Haddock.
And he always knows that after I review the map that he'll get it back. But it's like I can't really see all of that creativity that, you know, is necessary. And but in the long run, we get the job done with your help and expertise, and that's what counts. So I'm happy that we can just say thank you for the work that you do. We appreciate it. And everything, you know, it's not just those maps and the GIS work, which is important to every department, you know, uses the things and work products that you do, and even, you know, helping to make sure that the council meetings are recorded and people can watch them on television and online and things like that. So you got a lot of waterfront to cover. You do a great job at it.
Thank you.
And I'm happy that we can say thank you and congratulations on your 15th anniversary.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Haddock. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Braithwaite. Adam Shore couldn't make it tonight. And the rest of the department heads, thank you very much.
Hold up your plaque.
Congratulations. Our next item is nothing else under the City of Oldsmar. Next is the city attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, item number 7 on your agenda is the status report on the red light camera program. You remember at the last meeting, we had a discussion as to the status of the case that came out of South Florida, the Hollywood versus Aram case. I gave you a little bit of information on that. Subsequent to that, I had a conversation, meeting with the sheriff relative to the sheriff's help in bringing those red light camera uniform traffic citations to the special magistrate. There had been some discussion relative to the council suspending the program. You don't really have to worry about it at this point because the sheriff has actually suspended his work on the red light camera program. He has decided that he did not want his employees to be involved in the process of prosecuting those cases while the Aram decision is pending. So in order to try to resolve that issue, I met with the sheriff the Friday before last to talk about some possible courses of action that we could take that would be acceptable to ATS, to the city, and to the sheriff. We talked about 4 different options or courses of action, and I just want to go through those with you. The first one is for the city to actually suspend the contract. And you'll remember, if you suspend the contract for whatever period of time, that will just be added to the back end of the ATS contract. So you're really not doing anything other than making your contract longer, but you would wait to see what type of decision comes out, or final decision comes out of that Aram case. The second option is the city could hire, its own FDLE certified contractor to perform the review of the photographs and the videos and process the uniform traffic citations that way. The third course of action, and this is one suggested by the sheriff, and he may talk about that tonight, is to indemnify the sheriff for any action or any causes of action that would be brought as a result of us continue to prosecute these cases. And then we talked about alternatives, and that is to change the BRQs in the contract and maybe solve some of the issues that were brought up in the Aram case. So those 4 courses of action were discussed. We're still in that process. I briefed the mayor today about it and the city manager. And at this point, although there's no action that you need to take tonight, I just wanted to let you know that we're working on one of those 4. We'll decide which is, the most appropriate and bring that back to you if necessary. But those are some of the things that we're looking at this point. So there's nothing that you need to do. We'll probably be back to you in January at your first meeting or subsequent to that, talking to you about the options again and which ones that we're going to suggest and maybe get your input on that. But at this point, you don't need to do anything tonight. Now, I know that, of course, you can see the sheriff is in the audience, and the attorney for the sheriff is also here, and then the attorneys for ATS and the ATS representative are here too. The last time that we had this discussion, they did not have an opportunity to speak, and I think that they absolutely want to do that tonight. So, Mayor, with your okay with that, I'd like you to address that.
I think circumstances have changed a little bit. I think one of the questions that was asked at the last council meeting was, if we proceeded as it was, would the Sheriff's Department continue to review and enforce the citations? And at that point, the understanding was yes, but that has since changed, I guess. And so I think we do need to hear from all parties and figure out where we need to go. Sheriff Gualtieri is here. If you'd like to speak, or your counsel, that would be great. Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question? I missed the 4th. What was the 4th option?
Basically, to change the provisions under the terms of the contract to make it read in such a way or provide services in such a way that it would not be in violation of that Aram decision.
Okay. Thank you.
First thing, welcome to the sheriff to the incredible city of Oldsmar. Have you set Seminole straight yet?
Set Seminole Street, South Pasadena. Seminole, I talked to the mayor a little while ago, and they don't have them there, so Seminole's okay. Yeah, South Pasadena. So where are we? The decision came out, and after reading the decision, there are 2 holdings of it. One I think is fixable, the other I don't think is fixable. The second prong of it, as I call it, is the prong that said that it was impermissible for the citations to be issued without the direction of the law enforcement officer. That is something I think can be fixed easily.
The first prong deals with the improper delegation of the law enforcement or public safety authority to ATS to make those initial decisions. And based on the current contract, the current protocols, current policy, current procedure, I don't think that that can be fixed. And I've read the case, I've read the decision. I think there's validity to the holding, and I'm very concerned about it from a liability standpoint and a doing the right thing standpoint. So I decided at the end of October, and I communicated this to the city manager at that point, that I was no longer comfortable given this decision by the 4th District Court of Appeal to continue reviewing these. So we stopped at the end of October and have not reviewed them since. But with that said, of course, I want to be a good partner to the city. I respect the right and the role of the city council to make decisions that are in the city's interest and set policy for the city. So I also have an obligation to the sheriff's office, to the office of sheriff, and to the employees of the sheriff's office to make sure that we don't expose ourselves unnecessarily to liability, especially with an organization that, quite frankly, has pretty deep pockets that people oftentimes want to go after. So I understand the procedural posture of the case, there's been a petition for rehearing to the 4th District Court of Appeal. And whether they hear that or not, or whether it goes up to the Florida Supreme Court, we don't know. And one of the good things about the law, I guess, or one of the great things about the law is people differ. You got lawyers that are going to make arguments on one side, lawyers are going to make arguments on the other side, and ultimately you got a court that decides. And so this matter is not final, and the decision is not final, but I'm concerned enough about the reasoning in the decision, the rationale in the decision, and the 4th District's holding in the case, that I don't feel comfortable going forward with it because I do think there's an issue as far as the delegation, improper delegation of police powers. And at the same time, there's a lawsuit that's been filed. It's a class action lawsuit that has been filed down in Broward County, which could extend far beyond Broward County, could extend up here, could extend to others. And one of the great concerns I have in that class action suit is this is not limited to just liability for paying back all the fines that were paid, but it's brought under what's called Section 1983, which is a federal civil rights action alleging constitutional due process 14th Amendment violations. And that opens a whole different arena of damages, of liability, and also under that individual personal liability for the deputies is they may be processing these citations or these cases and making decisions where they can be personally liable. So I've got that obligation, again, to the office of the sheriff and to the deputies to make sure that we're not hanging out when we've got a court decision that says we shouldn't be doing this under the exact same procedures, exact same protocols that were used in Hollywood that are being used here. Now, I know ATS says that they don't agree and they think it's going to be overturned on appeal. Well, that's great, okay? None of us know because we're not the judges and we're not the ones that are going to make that decision. So until that is decided, I don't feel comfortable, but I think there's a huge amount of liability and huge amount of exposure, and I have that obligation. So in my discussions with Mr. Trask and with Mr. Haddock, I put several options on the table. And as Mr. Trask outlined those, I think those are the options. One is that we could continue as we are now with us not enforcing and not reviewing the red light camera violations. And it goes on. But you've got potential contract issues with that. I get all that. The second option is for the city to take that monkey off of me. Because, again, I respect and I'm trying to work with you and I'm trying to meet you halfway if that's what you want to do. But at the same time, protect our interest, the deputy's interest, is a very, very broad, very comprehensive, very complete indemnification and defense agreement. Now, ATS has said is that, and they made this offer in South Pasadena, I believe they made it here, is that ATS would provide defense for any lawsuits, causes of action, litigation that would arise out of this process of review and issuing the citations. But what they won't do is indemnify you. Well, an agreement to defend without indemnity to me is useless because that means they get a law firm, they hire the law firm defends, the law firm loses, you pay or I pay. Okay, so that doesn't work for me. So if you want me to do it, I'll do it, but the city would have to agree to indemnify and defend us. And that takes the monkey off our back. And if you all wanted to do that and you wanted a very broad indemnification agreement and defense agreement that indemnifies the deputies, everything under 1983, all the attorney's fees and all that, then I'll go back to doing them again if we have that agreement in place. Another option would be, and Mr. Trask alluded to this thing they call, I think, the BRQs, and you know, ATS says is that they believe it's going to be overturned. They believe that changing some of these BRQs. But the problem I have with that is the record in the appellate case is a closed record. Okay? None of these changes and none of these changes to the BRQs and none of this that they want to argue is part of the case in the 4th DCA. So that means in order for all this to come into play again, somebody's got to get sued. Okay? Somebody has to go back to court with a new claim, a new cause of action, and then argue that, well, if we make these changes, then it's okay, and this is what's being done. All the things that they say that fix this are not in the record in the lower court or in the appellate court, and it's a closed record. You can't introduce new facts once it's closed. So we could change process, and what we talked about was changing some of the process. And one of the things that you could do, I don't recommend it, and I want you to make an informed decision on it because I think it would affect the type and certainly quantity of law enforcement that you're getting in Oldsmar, is that you could have a deputy, okay, you could have a deputy doing what ATS is doing and review every single one of these. But that's not cost effective. You're taking a deputy sheriff and having him sit in front of a computer all day long and reviewing every single one of these things. And I don't recommend that, but you're paying for it. And if you wanted to do it, you know, we'll figure it out. But when you have delays in calls for service, when the community policing deputies aren't out there doing what you want them to do, and you get citizen complaints about ineffective service because they're sitting in front of that computer screen, I want you to make that decision. I don't want to make that decision. Mm-hmm. The last thing that you could do, and Mr. Trask alluded to this, is that under Chapter 316 of the Florida statutes, it does not require that you be a sworn law enforcement officer to review these violations and make that decision. You can be certified under Chapter 316, and I believe it's a 40-hour course or an 80-hour course, or you could hire a retired cop to do this, and you could take it totally out of the sheriff's office, and you could decide to do it, and it could be an employee of the city. You could take somebody in the fire department or code enforcement and train them to do it. So that's another option. You could take it totally, you know, out of our involvement or participation. So I think that's where it is, but again, the essence of it is I'm very concerned about the liability. I'm concerned about the exposure to the deputies individually, especially as this pending class action with 1983 claims in it. And I don't think that the court's decision by an appellate court in Florida is wrong. And so that's my view of it. That's my opinion on it. I am a lawyer, but I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm giving you what my take is as a sheriff. And so that's where I am with it. But clearly, I want everybody to know, I want to work with you. I respect the right of the city council to set policy and to do what is in the best interest of the city. But understand where I'm coming from. I have an obligation to the office of the sheriff, to liability exposure, and to the individual deputies.
Sure. Thank you. Tom, do you have any further input on this before we ask maybe ATS to come out?
No, I think that the sheriff basically went through the same things that I had gone through in our discussion the other day, and we're all looking to solve the problem, just that we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
So,
Well, let me ask a question. Can this be solved by us until the 4th District Court makes up their mind what they want?
Why don't we, at this point, why don't we let ATS come up and talk, and we'll hear all that, and then we'll have questions of either party or Tom and see where we want to go from there, if we go anywhere.
Okay. Good evening, Council. Ken Tinkler with Carlton Fields Jordan Burt, representing ATS. And thank you, Council, for letting us speak this evening regarding this issue, and I certainly appreciate the Sheriff's perspective on this. And certainly respect his right as a constitutional officer to address this kind of issue. I think the Sheriff and I agree on the fact that this case is not final at this point in time. This is something, as I'm sure your council can tell you, there are cases throughout the state of Florida dealing with all aspects of local government where a judge may make a decision that is not quite consistent with how you're doing something in Oldsmar. I think you want to allow the process to complete, to let things work their way through the system to see what the final result will be. I'd encourage you to read the case. I think if you read the factual determinations, and I think, again, the Sheriff and I agree, The story that's told in that case is different than how you handle things here in Oldsmar. My practice is local government law. I deal with procurement issues and how governments deal with individual contractors all the time. I think if you just read that case, you would assume that local governments do not handle these things in extreme detail, do not have staffs that work through all of the procedures and process, the BRQ that was mentioned earlier, how things are supposed to be handled in dealing with a vendor. It paints a very broad brush that seems to be very inconsistent with how ATS is dealing with its customers. And I think, as the sheriff also brought up, if someone was to challenge your process, they would have to challenge a very different story. They have to challenge a different process and procedure than what has happened here in Oldsmar. As far as liability, and the sheriff brought this up a few times, the liability is mostly in the past. These are issues that have been gone through and facts that have already built up. What you need to base your decision on is a rather small subset of liability. It's what actions you're going to take going forward as this case is resolved. And you have to balance that against your prior decisions about public safety, your business obligations to a vendor of the city, your 2015 budget that you're operating under, all of the factors that you have to deal with as city council members. ATS is certainly happy to work with the city. I appreciate the city attorney's update and report and the options that are out there. As the sheriff mentioned, ATS has been willing to go beyond its contract obligations and offer legal counsel should the city be challenged in any action, or the sheriff be challenged in any action. The indemnity the sheriff speaks of, as you could understand, for any business that is performing a service for local government, if that was to be provided in any particular jurisdiction, every other jurisdiction, every other customer would want that kind of thing. And financially, that's simply not viable for any business that's looking to do work for government. I can only imagine the chilling effect that would have on any vendor trying to do work for government if that was a requirement. So to sum up, how ATS sees this at this point in time is you have an incomplete legal process. You should allow the courts to finish the results here, but in any case, you have a different story to tell. You have handled this in a different manner than how that case outlines that city supposedly handled it, though we would disagree. But a different set of facts that would be challenged if it were to be challenged here. But we look forward to working with the city.
Can I just ask a question? You have mentioned on several occasions a different story to tell. Is there a Reader's Digest version of that you could
absolutely
tell me and tell the council as to what the differences are?
Absolutely. The case seems to outline that there was a complete delegation of all aspects of how these particular infractions are reviewed to the vendor. And that's simply not how these things occur. During your contract negotiations, there were extensive back and forth with the city as to what process, what procedures, what rules, how all of this should be handled because of how the city wishes it to be done. This is a city-controlled, city and county-controlled process, depending on the jurisdiction, where decisions are not made by the vendor as to which cases to move forward, but they're made in using those BRQs, using the process and procedure that the city sets forward. So why that was not included in that case, we were not the lawyers handling that particular case, but it leaves you to have a different story to tell if there was a challenge here.
Is ATS the vendor represented in that case? Or
the ATS is the vendor in that case. However, the ATS was not the legal counsel involved with that matter.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or anything you'd like to add, Tom?
No.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Any questions of the sheriff or ATS legal counsel or questions in general?
My question revolves around the same thing. I mean, a complete delegation of infraction to the vendor. So does that mean that Hollywood doesn't have the sheriffs?
City of Hollywood has its own police department. And
Well, neither do we.
No, City of Hollywood does have.
They have one.
Yes, they do have its
Okay.
own police department. And one of the things that the council mentioned, and the mayor asked about was, complete different facts. Well, I don't agree that they're complete different facts. And that assumes, and there's a huge danger in assuming, that assumes that this argument about these BRQs fixes this. There's no court that said that the rules, so to speak, that are contractually crafted are going to fix this. I'm not convinced that they will fix it. That's an argument that the BRQs will fix it. The BRQ argument, again, the argument wasn't made in the Hollywood case. They now say they have a decision, they got a record, and they say, well, whoops, this wasn't argued in the Hollywood case. If it was argued in the Hollywood case, we would have a different outcome. But it woulda, coulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda. They didn't, and no, they weren't the lawyers, it was somebody else. But you can't go reopen that case because of the closed record. Now they say, well, if it were to come up again, and here in Oldsmar, you got a whole different set of facts because we would now argue this BRQ. But nobody can be assured that that BRQ argument's going to carry the day. So I disagree you got a separate set of facts. I think you got the same set of facts, and you got this BRQ argument, but it still comes down to whether it's permissible for somebody sitting out wherever they are in Arizona to be making initial decisions about whether there's a violation or whether that's a police power that somebody should be, that should be exercised by somebody that's under control of the city.
So
and not delegated.
Sheriff, so is what you're saying is that in the Hollywood case, they don't actually have sheriffs or police officers reviewing? They only
do.
have they do.
But it's the same thing. Initially, the camera captures it, it goes out to ATS. They do the initial review, then it comes back to, same thing we're doing here is what they're doing in Hollywood.
So the procedure is the same, so I'm still confused on different set of facts. So the procedure is exactly the same in how we review them. ATS reviews them first, then y'all review them, and then y'all make the determination which ones are red light infractions, right?
Correct.
Got a question.
Yeah, sure.
I think
he's.
I want to ask the sheriff.
Okay, well, let him finish this one. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Tinkler.
Okay,
and then we'll let Mr. Beeman ask his question.
I think the sheriff and I think agree on a lot of this. What is missing in that case, what is missing in the facts is those BRQs, is those standards that were set for how ATS is to review these kinds of
Why
scenarios.
wasn't that argued in the Hollywood case?
I was not the counsel in that case, but that is the clear difference in how this would be viewed if there was to be a challenge here.
So it's not really a different set of facts, it's a different way of how you defended it.
No, it is a missing set of facts. Right. If you took, and that's why I would encourage you to read it, if you took that and said, this is how we handle things in Oldsmar, I think you would be very surprised. You would say, this is not how my city handles these kinds of scenarios. Because what they're talking about is whether it is a situation where the vendor has complete discretion. That you take a picture.
Which isn't true in either case.
Which is not true. It is absolutely not true. You do not just take a picture and the vendor decides today that's an infraction, tomorrow it's not. That's what the court seems to be implying. These are an extensive set of rules and procedures that the city decides what is an infraction. What is it? What is the vendor supposed to look for to say, yes, this is an infraction? This is a clear set of decisions that are not made by the vendor. They're made by the local government as part of this process. And I think that's, we're saying about the same thing. It's how you approach it and how, with the effect of this case that is presently not complete.
Okay, thank you.
But to that point, and to the sheriff, we don't know that this BRQ is going to resolve it for them or for us. Is that correct? There's no proof that that's going to resolve anything. Well, even if it was submitted in evidence down there.
But we have no way of going back in time and saying what the appellate court would have done in that kind of scenario. What I'm saying is the applicability of this decision. This is dealing with a single local government. It is not dealing with how Oldsmar implemented its process. And I think there's clearly a different story as to how you handle your procurements, how you function as a local government in setting those standards for your vendors.
Sure, and I get that. Yep. Thank you. Mr. Beeland?
This is going to get more complicated than what we're talking here right here tonight, because if one set of circumstances doesn't work, and this sort of circumstances did work, and while we have a third, whatever that word is, we can have 4 different things coming here at different times. Okay, this is going before the 4th District again.
It is, a rehearing has been requested.
Wait a minute, I'm asking him.
Right, yeah, oops. Yes, there's been a request for a rehearing on it with the 4th DC.
Okay, we're going to have a rehearing down there.
Right.
He's saying you can't use the same facts because you say that's all closed?
Yeah.
So what does this mean?
Well, it means that this whole argument about the BRQs can't come up in that case because it's not part of the record. So that case is going to get decided on the same facts. Now what could change, and probably what they want, and it's great if it does, and then wherever it goes, is if it gets remanded back down to the traffic court, and then they can re-argue it and then introduce this BRQ thing. But again, there's no guarantee, there's no assurances. And I have some reservations about, serious reservations about, I understand what he's saying. He's saying this BRQ cures this because you got items in the contract that provide rules. But none of us know that a court is going to accept that argument as being a fix. And when you're dealing with this improper delegation and potentially due process and 14th Amendment claims, we don't know that. It's all argument. It's all legal argument by lawyers. And I think we need to let the process work and let either the 4th DCA or the Florida Supreme Court tell us, because yeah, the bulk of the liability is in the back, but if there's liability, why are we adding to it going forward? And that's where I can't expose our agency or the deputies, especially when we're talking about 1983 due process claims.
Well, why would the 4th District even take this back if it's all the same stuff? Because
you can file a motion and ask them to rehear it. And is it an en banc, request for hearing en banc for the 4th DCA?
Yes.
Okay, so it is. So what that means is that you have a 3-judge panel that heard this and made a decision. So they're requesting that, and the 4th District Court of Appeals is made up of many judges, probably 15 or so, or whatever it is. And they're asking the entire court to hear this, okay? Or they're trying to get it certified to take it to the Florida Supreme Court. So it isn't a legal procedural pool that's swimming around, and where it all stops and where it lands and what happens, it's any of our guesses.
We could keep going on and on and on.
It could go on for a period of time. Eventually it's going to get resolved, either because the 4th DCA is going to hear it and they're going to kick it back and remand it, or it could go to the Supreme Court. There's any one of a number of scenarios that could happen.
If I may, the only thing to add to that is happening every day of the week. You have decisions that are happening regarding local government by courts throughout the state constantly. If you were to set the precedent that any time there's a case out there that may slightly differ with your process or raise a question that you might have a legal action, you're going to have a lot more council meetings. You're going to be very busy in that regard in dealing with those particular issues.
Yeah, but I mean, we understand that, or I understand that. But I'm not going through, this council is not going through all those actions all over the state. What we're talking about is one thing. And that's what we're talking about tonight. I don't care about everything else out there.
Understand, and I think that's why we're in agreement with your city attorney and your staff on trying to work through what is the best options going forward.
Thank you. If you'll just hang out, we'll see if we have any more questions. Do you have any more questions or discussion amongst us and where we want to go? Go ahead.
I mean, so the last meeting I voted to suspend it because of the lawsuit. And I think that it's unfair for the city to kind of have your hands tied behind your backs, stating that we would basically just be adding more time onto our contract if we suspend it due to potentially legal action. However, if we feel confident enough in the program, why would we be concerned about having another 5 or 6 months or 7 months added onto our contract? I personally think that we should have suspended it, just because, like the sheriff said, we really don't know what that liability could be, and these fees get split among the state, the vendor, the city, and the city is the one that essentially has the most liability.
Sure. And I mean, to that point, and I think which is why we're back here today, is when we left the last meeting, I was under the impression that the Sheriff's Department was going to continue to, do things as they were and review them, and that's not the case, which is why we're back here. I can tell you that having been on City Council when we approved this, it certainly is not about money, it's about safety. But at the end of the day, it's about liability to the taxpayers of the city of Oldsmar and
the sheriff.
And the Sheriff's Department. But it's really a liability issue, and we don't know where we're going to go. I mean, my thought is, and you're certainly welcome to chime in, is that, I mean, we did not act to suspend it, but by default, by the Sheriff's Department not reviewing, we're in a pseudo suspension period. But I think ATS would agree is that, we let the Sheriff's Department and our legal counsel and the city manager see if they can work through something that works well and protects the Sheriff's Department and protects, us as well. I mean, I think that's what we're in this for. And maybe by then we'll hear something from the 4th District Court and move forward. I just hate to move forward on something that we don't know. As we've all said, the BRQs may work and they may not, but I'm not sure I'm ready to take that risk and the liability that could go along with that, especially with the class action lawsuit.
Are we going to wait for the city manager and the city attorney to come back with a recommendation?
Yeah, and we're going to be talking to the sheriff, of course, and we'll be talking to the ATS, and we're going to, all three of us are going to try to come to some resolution that would work for everyone.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think this is not something that just needs to be resolved in Oldsmar. This is something that's going to obviously need to be resolved, throughout the state, I assume. So that's kind of my thought. We don't really need to take any action. We don't need to suspend. We don't need to do anything. I think we just let the parties see if they can resolve something, and if not, then it comes back before us and we take some action that we need to take.
If we suspend the program, are we still paying the vendor fees, and how does that work, Tom?
They're still adding up. Right.
And then currently, though, the way it's working right now, so for the last month, if the sheriff's department hasn't been reviewing them, we're still paying the fees, but really no actions.
We're not actually paying them.
They're getting tacked on to the end. And as I understand it, when it was done, is that if it goes back into effect and there's profits to be made, that they go to the vendor until such time as we've paid off that. And if we get to the end of the contract and there's still monies to be paid to the vendor, we're relieved of that based on the way the contract was written.
It's a cost-neutral contract, but they're entitled to be paid so long as we're earning money. So in the end, we won't be out of pocket anything. It'll just be a profit if there is any
And we're not
profit.
earning money right now.
We are not earning any money right now.
The district court, or this court that did all this, they okayed it, and then it came back, and then they dislocated, is that? See, that's scary. The same court says it's fine, and then that same court come back and say, well, it's not fine.
Well, it might be because of the importance of the issue across the state. If 3 judges versus
Why would it-
all of the judges, Sheriff, that's what you said, all of the judges, I think they're just trying to be very careful, maybe?
Well, if I can just jump in, we don't really know.
Right.
We can look at the order and we can make an assumption based upon what is in the order. But the bottom line is they ruled one way, they changed the ruling, and we're asking them now to go back and look with all of the judges, not we,
Right.
the city of Hollywood is asking for an en banc decision based upon all those appellate judges, or send it to the Supreme Court and have them decide that. So that's kind of where we're at this point.
So we don't really lose anything if we do suspend, other than adding time on to the end of the contract. But if they rule against us and we indemnify the sheriff, then taxpayers of Oldsmar are on the hook, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
That's kind of,
I don't think we're at the point to make that decision as to which of the 4 options we want to move forward with. I think
well, the 3, that was somebody said that was suggested.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we try and work it out with the sheriff's department.
Right, I'm
and
not
ATS,
suggesting anything, I'm
and I don't know
just
that we
making a
should
point
formally
that
suspend,
that's kind
but
of
it's
scary.
kind of de facto suspended by the fact that
Right.
they won't be reviewed. So, if they're not
Oh,
reviewed.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, if they're not being reviewed, there's nothing to process, so.
And we want to, when we give you all of these options and hopefully come back with a recommendation, we want to show you the financial impact it will have on the city. So if you hire this, independent contractor that has been certified to do it either through the sheriff's office or some other way, or have it as an employee that's trained in the city, we pick up some costs and some expenses. And so we want to do that analysis to determine how much it's going to cost for each one of these options, or if it's not going to cost us anything, what is the ultimate liability to the city if something goes terribly wrong?
That's a
If
good
we
idea.
get sued too,
Yeah.
can't that person that we hire get sued as well, just like the sheriff's office? I mean,
Be an employee
Being
of the
employee of
city.
the city, yeah. You need any other discussion? Otherwise, Bruce, you're not looking for any action from us tonight, other than some confirmation?
We wanted to bring you up to date on, what's happened in the last 2 weeks. And as the city attorney said, our objective going forward is the city attorney and I are going to meet with the sheriff, and hopefully one of these 3 or 4 options that have been brought forward, we can determine that there's one of them that we can all live with.
And you're looking for an agreement from the council that that's the direction that we want to go, is to continue to negotiate that? And, I mean, just so that we're all in agreement?
Well, I assume if you objected, you'd let me know, otherwise I'll just carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any objection to that. I think that's the prudent thing to do, so. Anything else? No? Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Okay, we ready for the next agenda item, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so item number 8 on your agenda is the second and final reading and public hearing of ordinance 2014-11. I'll read that ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2014-11, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, submitting to the electors of the City of Oldsmar a proposed amendment to the city charter, said amendment amending section 4.02A of Article 4 of the charter for council to appoint a city manager for an indefinite term by a 4/5 vote and amending section 4.02D of Article 4 of the Charter for council to remove a city manager by a 4/5 vote and providing for an effective date hereof. That was the second and final reading of ordinance 2014-11 by title only, and it does require a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Yes, Loretta?
Mayor and Council, Loretta White, 601 Shore Drive East. I didn't speak to this number 8 at the last meeting, or to 9 either for that matter, because I was waiting to hear a logical reason to change it. I didn't find any. I was here the night the Charter Review Committee presented their findings to you. I heard no hue and cry from the public to change it. I didn't hear any of them say, oh, you got to fix this, it's broken. Well, it hasn't been broken for 16 years, so I wouldn't consider that broken. Mayor, you yourself said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. In this case, I don't think it's broken. But,
I think I was speaking of a different item, but I did say that.
But you did say that a few times.
But not on this particular item.
I really think you might tick off the residents of Oldsmar if you put this back on the ballot when they just voted against it a few years ago. And they're going to be wondering why y'all are spending their taxpayers' dollars to put this back on the ballot, because the supervisor election charges you for this. They don't give it to you for free. So you are spending taxpayers' dollars. So why get them mad for something they've already voted against? And I would just hope that you would reconsider this and leave it the way it is. It's working fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Loretta.
Anybody else in the room like to address this item? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. I need a motion and a second to move it forward.
So moved.
Second?
Move it forward for discussion.
Sure.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Well, the people was always chosen one time. Of course, they chose that at a different time, but all I'm going to say is that what you're doing is you're giving up some of the council's authority. You're giving that up. And it was brought up last time that it's more attractive to get a city manager when it's a 4 to 5. Well, if that's what's worrying a possible city manager, I don't want him anyway. We have a proven fact here with 3 charter officials on a 3 to 5 vote. They don't have to worry about being fired, whether it was 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 or 4 to 1 or whatever it is, because they're doing their job. I don't know of anybody here that has their own company that would give up that authority to fire somebody that wasn't doing their job right. Or, well, so say you have a board of directors and you own the company, you say, well, I got to go to the board of directors and ask them if I can fire this guy. I don't know who would do that. City clerk and this city manager and this city attorney is probably the best in the state. They don't have to worry about, I don't think you'd have to worry about it if it was, if it took 5 votes or 4 votes or 3 votes or 2 votes to get rid of you. Nobody on this council wants to do that. Whatever the council goes with, that's what it's going to be. And I think it's, again, it's not broken. It's not broken in this city.
Yeah, and I did say that, but I said that in a different item that was before us last time, and it was an item that is in place and working, and I think this was brought forward because looking forward, you're correct, we do have great city clerk, city manager, and city attorney, but as you well know, there have been cases where that hasn't been the case, and I think the argument, and I'll let you speak as well, the argument was that if the person is truly a rogue attorney or a rogue city manager or city clerk or whatever the case may be, it really should be a majority, I mean, almost unanimous that the person is bad. But to the other side of that is I could also see the case where you could have, because we're certainly not going to be on council forever, that you could have 3 elected officials that could conspire to fire the city attorney or city manager or city clerk for whatever reason they wanted. That's certainly a possibility as well. We know city councils have been known to do that in the past too. So, I mean, I definitely see both sides. Currently at this point, and I certainly respect Loretta's opinion, this was a 4/5, then it went to 3/5 because of the situation that you had, and now it's back to 4. So, I mean, you could argue it either way that, well, it was 3/5 and why make it 4/5? They voted, but it was 4/5 and they decided to make it 3/5. Times change. It's been, 16 years, I think, was mentioned that this was done. And it was probably done for a case in point. You had something that clearly needed, it was broke, so it did need to be fixed. So,
Can I ask you a question? Can you relate to me a rogue council in the city of Oldsmar over the past 40 years?
no, but it's possible. I mean, it's certainly possible.
Possible. It's more possible way back yonder.
Sure,
when I was on council in 1970.
Sure,
But we're more sophisticated today. We're on camera today.
Yeah, and I agree. And I mean, I've had this discussion with Bruce and others, is that we are a more modern council than we were of the past, and I don't see us getting a rogue council, and I also see us probably not getting a rogue city attorney or city manager or city clerk. But having said that, then if you do happen to have that something goes bad, I mean, I think you want it to be a majority, so,
Happened in Toronto.
Yes, it happened in Toronto. So at any rate, I'm preaching. I think I've said what we've said before. So.
Well, I was on the fence on this one, and when we had the first hearing, I believe that a simple majority is what our country was based on. And I think part of the problem of our country is these super majorities and these, needing more than a regular majority in order to pass things. But then Gabby brought up the point that made me think that if the city manager, city attorney, or city clerk is truly a rogue city attorney, city manager, city clerk, then it should be unanimous. It should be 5-0. And that swayed me. But over the last couple of weeks, the comments that I've heard from citizens are that they like the 3/5 at Bill's funeral. They like the 3/5. So I personally think that simple majority is what this country is based on.
Yeah, so. And I agree with exactly what you're saying. My thought is, we as a council live and breathe this, but cases, all we're doing is moving it to the ballot, and that's where the voters come out and say, do we want green light or not? And either passes or fails, and it's based on the voters, not us. All we're doing is moving it forward. If we move it forward at all, but I certainly see your point. Gabby?
One of the things I brought up before is that everything we vote on is a 3-2, or, it's a 3/5 vote. And I don't think that this is essentially any more important than anything else that we vote on by saying that it's 4/5. But like Linda said, I also agree, though, that, it should be unanimous. If we're going to terminate a charter official or city manager, everyone should be on board with that decision.
This would get it closer to unanimous, but.
But either way, I think it's fine the way it is, but I also don't have any problem with making the change, because I do feel like it should be unanimous. So.
Or in this case, 4/5. Yeah. So, any other comments?
Well, as long as Jerry's on the council, nothing will ever be unanimous.
5 more meetings. 5?
Who's counting? Who's
Did I
counting?
say that out loud? Sorry. I'm kidding. We love you. We love you. If there's no other comments.
I may come back.
Oh, I know.
Welcome, too.
Yeah, we have more room for pictures down there on the wall. Don't worry.
Not as mayor.
Yeah.
Mayor.
If there's no other comments, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beaverland?
No.
Councilmember McKee?
No.
Vice Mayor Norris?
No.
Mayor Beavis?
No.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2014-11, amending section 4.02A of Article 4 of the Charter for Council to appoint a city manager for an indefinite term by 4/5 vote, and amending section 4.02D of Article 4 of the Charter for Council to remove a city manager by a 4/5 vote, fails with 0 votes for and 4 against.
Okay, item number 9 on your agenda, the second and final reading and public hearing of ordinance 2014-12. I'll read that by title only. Ordinance 2014-12, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, submitting to the electors of the City of Oldsmar a proposed amendment to the city charter. Said amendment amending section 3.08 of Article 3 of the charter to appoint and remove charter officials by a 4/5 vote of the city council and providing for an effective date hereof. That was reading of ordinance 2014-12 by title only.
This is a public hearing from, does anybody from the public wish to address the council, Loretta?
Loretta White, 601 Shore Drive East. What I said before about the number 8 is the same. Number 9, I guess I got it right. I know I have my paper up here. But as a council, you don't want to relinquish any of your authority. We hired you to run the city. We didn't hire bureaucrats. So you need to think about that also. You're always going to get good people. They're good jobs, and when they get them, they don't leave them.
We hope.
Believe me.
Or she won't vote for them.
Thank you. Anybody else from the council wish to, from the public wish to address the council? Seeing no one, will close the city. Oh, sorry. Yep.
I apologize. Can you repeat? You read that very quickly. What was this regarding?
Can you come to the podium real quick? Just, yep.
Joseph Dinelli, Eastlake Oaks, 1604 Shady Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
So could you just please repeat exactly what is the difference from this than the one before? One was for city council, and is this for a different vote or a different consideration?
Yeah.
There are different provisions in the charter. There is a provision for the city attorney, a city clerk, and the city manager. The first one that we read was the article dealing with the city manager alone, that he would be appointed or removed by a 4/5 vote. This section is a different section of the charter that says that all charter officials will be appointed by a 4/5 vote. And so it's the same idea, but now it's spread and picks up the other two.
And the charter officials
Understood.
Yep.
So my only comment hearing this for the first time is that the same rationalization that was utilized, that you could have collusion potentially of 3 conspiring against, you also have the opposite. If you can have collusion of 1 to go the other way. So it sounds to me like it would actually be worse going the other way, because it would only, to have a full majority, it would only take 1 person to be in collusion with whatever party to affect the change. So that's my only comment.
Yeah, there's a multitude of scenarios that could play out over the time, but anybody else from the public did we get your name and address? I think we did, didn't we?
Joe Dinelli.
Okay, thanks, sorry. Anybody else from the public wish to address this item? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Need a motion and a second to move it forward. Second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion?
Same as before.
Same rationale as ditto from number 8.
So it's kind of, well, to hire one, to hire a charter official, it would take 4 votes.
That plays, you can play that another way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like you said, if they're good enough, it's going to be unanimous. If they're bad enough, it's going to be unanimous, more than likely.
But I think your point is that if you found 3 that wanted to cherry pick somebody, they could, but you could argue this from 17 different sides, probably.
Yeah, you can.
We have 3 elected officials that are collusion on one person. We have a bigger problem than his appointed manager, so I think.
Well, I'm not going to tell the story, but I have a history with this one.
Yeah, and I hope we've moved past that as a more modern council and things like that, but.
Being on TV and all.
Thoughts?
Well, I can see where it could become a problem. It can become a problem with a 4/5. I'm going to do something that's really outside, Mayor. I'm going to ask the city manager and the city attorney what they think about this one.
Who do you want to hear from first?
You.
Well, I've got some skin in the game, because I'm one of those three officials, but, I've always been of the opinion that the 4/5 vote is a good thing. And the reason that I always think it's a good thing is because you've got some, continuity to the council. You guys come and go, when you're elected and then your term expires, but there has to be some continuity between, up here, either up here or for the city as to some history and some direction that we've lived through it that the new council members may not, or the new mayor may not. And I always thought that that was a good thing. And obviously you've got a city manager who's been here, what is it now?
A couple of years.
28 years. Did I get that right, Bruce? Bruce is 28 years. I forget how many years it's for me. I think it's 18 years for me, and Ann's got a couple of years under her belt now too. So, but I always thought it was a good thing. But whatever you want to do, obviously, if you don't want one of us up here, you're going to have that 4/5 vote. And frankly, if there were three of you that didn't want me up here, and I'm sure the others feel the same way, they wouldn't want to be here either.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know for a fact that one time we did lose a charter official because the charter official made the determination that they were going to leave without the fight with the votes. But we're talking here about hiring somebody now.
Hiring, yes.
Or removing it.
Or removing.
Or removing.
Removing, right.
Or removing.
Okay.
It's appointing or removing.
This is the whole charter, not just the charter officials. This isn't,
We have to vote for this one like we did the last one.
it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay,
It's a little bit different because this is, the other one's just removing. This is hiring and removing.
okay, well, then I'm against this one too then.
And let me just also bring to your attention, if you look way down here in the body of section number 2, this does not become effective unless ordinance 2014-11 becomes effective.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so you've already voted 2014-11 down, so even if you approve this and it went to the voters, it would never become effective. And the reason being is because we can't have in one portion of the charter saying that you can appoint and remove by 4/5 vote, and another portion that says 3/5 vote. It'd be conflicting, and then we definitely have issues with that. That's why when we drafted these, we tried to make it so that it picks up, all of those provisions. So in theory, even if you pass this, it would fail.
So that makes it easier.
It makes it any easier for you and your vote on the motion.
Should ask for his legal opinion first, right?
No, I think you got to be consistent.
Yeah.
So this discussion is pretty much meaningless, as the city attorney just pointed out.
As I vote against this one also, I do want to say, and I am sincere in this, that we have an incredible city clerk, we have an incredible city manager. Of course, he's upset with me right now, but that's okay. I love him anyway. We have an incredible attorney, and we're very lucky. And this has nothing to do with our city charter officials. It has nothing to do with them.
Well, reviewing these things, these is something that we have to do every 5 years anyway, and this is the opportunity to make a change if we were going to make it, and if we don't feel like we need to make it, we don't make it.
Well,
So,
this is something that the charter committee had positioned to us to review, so, but I think we should vote.
any other discussion? If not, Linda, anything?
No.
Call the roll.
We need a motion, don't we?
We have a motion in a
Yeah, we
second.
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that down there.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
Councilmember Beaverland?
no.
Councilmember McKee?
No.
Vice Mayor Norris?
No.
Mayor Beavis?
No.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2014-12, amending section 3.08 of Article 3 of the Charter to appoint and remove charter officials by 4/5 vote of the City Council fails with 0 votes for and 4 against.
But Mayor, I'd like to say something. We're going to do something a little later on that takes a 3/5 vote, probably. And I know that probably none of the charter officials would want that to be a 4/5 vote. We're going to do that in just a little while.
Okay.
All right,
As
Mayor.
a teaser, as we call it.
All right. Item number 10 on your agenda is the second and final reading and public hearing of ordinance 2014-18. I'll read that by title only. Ordinance 2014-18, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, submitting to the electors of the City of Oldsmar a proposed amendment to the city charter. Said amendment amending Section 5.06 of Article 5 of the charter to use the word "there" in place of "he" or "his" where appropriate, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was reading of ordinance 2014-18 by title only.
And this is a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to address this item? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. I need a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this item?
Nope. No, this is a no-brainer in my book.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beaver?
Yes.
Councilmember McKee?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Yes.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2014-18, amending section 5.06 of Article 5 of the Charter to use the word "there" in place of "he" or "his" where appropriate, passes with 4 votes for and 0 against.
The last thing under city attorney is item number 11, the first reading and public hearing of ordinance 2014-19. It doesn't have anything to do with the charter, though. Ordinance 2014-19, an ordinance declaring the intention of the City of Oldsmar, Florida to annex certain real property located in Section 26, Township 28 South, Range 16 East, further described as 736 Shore Drive East. Parcel number 26, 28, 16, 00000, 440, 0100 into the corporate limits of the City of Oldsmar, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance. That was a reading of ordinance 2014-19 by title only, and it does require a public hearing.
And this is a public hearing. Does anybody wish to address this item either for or against? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. This was at the request of the landowner, is that correct? Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this item?
One at a time.
One at a time. Seeing no one, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beaver?
Yes.
Councilmember McKee?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
First reading of ordinance 2014-19, annexing the south portion of 736 Shore Drive East, passes with 4 votes for and 0 against.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Item 12, approve modification to street calming plan in Eastlake Oaks. There's been a street calming in Eastlake Oaks subdivision for a number of years, and earlier this year, the residents through the Homeowners Association requested some modifications. There's kind of a lengthy process involving the residents and how that is undertaken. I'd like to ask Lisa Ray, our Public Works Director, to continue the presentation, and we do have a recommendation that we're asking you to approve regarding modifying the plan there.
Thank you very much. Lisa Ray, Director of Public Works. I do want to recognize some of the homeowners that are here who did participate in the process. It is an extensive process, as Bruce said. It initiates with a petition from the homeowners, and that's followed up by a traffic study that's completed by the Public Works Department. Then we do try to implement some other tactics to see if that will help the situation. We'll put a speed trailer out, then we'll coordinate with the sheriff's office, and we're looking at this, and then we go back out again and we do another traffic study to see if it's had any impact. And then after that, we go to the technical review committee. They review the results. And after that, then we have the meeting with the Homeowners Association. And at the Homeowners Association meeting, a request came up for another area as well. It's just one street over. It's in the same area. So what we decided to do, we did have an extensive conversation about that street as well during the public meeting. And while they were pulling together the petition for that road, we went ahead and we kind of changed the process a little bit to keep things moving because it is a lengthy process. So we went ahead and we did the traffic study. The petition did come in. We went to TRC, and we've looked at the area, and a couple of, as you probably saw in your packet, we did have a memo and we have some diagrams showing what we're planning on doing. The best distance between 2 speed bumps is about 400 feet. If you get much farther than 400 feet apart, you do give cars a chance to accelerate. And when they accelerate, you know, then there's a lot of speeding up and slowing down, and there are curves in the subdivision. So what we're recommending to do is, first of all, the one speed bump that is right at the entrance, right when you turn off Tampa Road. That speed bump is actually not in a safe location by our estimation, because what you're doing is you're slowing down people who are trying to get on to a major road, trying to make a light, trying to turn at a very busy intersection. And so you don't want to cause that kind of impediment that close to that busy of an intersection. So what we're proposing to do is move that speed bump to the other side, a little bit farther down Shady Oaks, right before the curb, or a little bit before the curb, because that was one of the requests that, is it still working? Yeah. That Mr. Denali had, is that there's a concern because people were speeding up and they're coming around that curve too fast. And there have been some accidents that have occurred at that location. So that's one of the recommendations, is to relocate that one existing speed hump farther down the road. The other speed bump that's farther down the road needs to be rehabilitated. Over time, what happens with speed humps is cars go over them, they start to flatten out. And when they flatten out, obviously they're not as effective. So that second one, we would be rehabilitating it. We'd raise it back up. And with all of this, we're going to be doing additional striping on all of the speed bumps so that they're more noticeable. And we'll be putting up signs as well. Then over on the other road, what the plan is to install a whole new speed bump and then to relocate the existing speed bump a little farther down the road. So again, we're getting the 400-foot distance, which is, well, I think that one I think is just under 400 feet. I think that's like 390 feet, but close enough. So that we're getting the optimal distance between the speed humps, and we'll be doing the striping there. Now, since we're removing the one right at the entrance, what we're doing to slow people down there is we're going to add pedestrian enhancements. There's going to be crosswalks added. Right now, you have sidewalks that come to that main entrance, and there's no pedestrian cross marks. So most people, and you might have noticed this on some of the roads in this area, we've done it right here on Park, when you start adding additional striping, people start slowing down because it narrows the lane. And it also, it's just kind of, it's a visual, it slows them. So we'll be doing some pedestrian cross marks at this intersection, and we'll be doing some more signage just to help try and calm traffic. But we recommend council's approval on this, and like I said, we do have some of the homeowners here who did participate in the process. So if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them, and I'm sure any of them would be willing to get up and speak as well.
Now, does this include the speed hump that the homeowner just recently came to a meeting, like last meeting or the meeting before, saying that they'd be willing to put, or an email we received, or they came to the meeting and they had they said they offered to put a sign in their yard? I believed it was in Eastlake Oaks, so I wasn't sure if this included that person's request.
I don't know that I saw that.
I'll check my emails.
Maybe they sent it just to you, because I didn't see it either.
I don't recall seeing
I don't remember seeing that.
Are these going to be the portable speed bumps?
No, they're the asphalt ones.
The asphalt?
Yeah, they're the asphalt ones. They're the permanently installed. They're part of the road, basically, yeah. And we will need to get a contractor to come in, and that was why when we received the second request, we expedited it, because if we're going to have a contractor come in and pay the mobilization and go through the whole process, there's economy of scale. We'd rather do it all at once instead of going out several times. And plus, you know, the homeowners that were interested were already at the public meeting, so there was no reason to.
It's always been my philosophy. In fact, when I was mayor way back yonder, in fact, this went up back in the early 90s. If any subdivision came in and wanted speed bumps, and if they got the number of signatures that we required, let them have them.
Thank you for that. Any other questions of Lisa or the residents?
No.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And you're looking for approval, so we need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Okay, yeah, go ahead. State your name and address, please.
I think it is not a wise idea to remove first speed bump.
Your name and address.
Name and address.
My name is Nick Yagnik, address 161 at Graybark Drive. The first speed bump on Shady Oak, as soon as you cross that, you have a two provision, make a right turn on Graybark or left turn on Graybark.
Or continue straight, correct?
Or continue straight, yes, you are right. That is helping lot people making right or left, because the person coming behind you, it slows down, regardless whether the person behind you will make a right or left. Given that, I would strongly recommend leave that speed bump where it is, put whatever stripe, children crossing or people crossing or whatever, then put additional speed bump. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this particular item? No, I respect the staff's review of the safety issue, and I think you said it covers the, where did she go? I lost her. Oh, it spans the whole width, both ingress and egress, right, from the neighborhood? I mean, and I think
Right,
to the residents'
the
point,
one
if
coming
you-
in at Tampa Road, that one is the whole way across, so yeah, ingress and egress.
And I don't know exactly how many, but I mean, it looks like you would have maybe a queue of about 6 cars coming in. And my concern would be is that if it stayed there more so for the traffic coming in, is that if you had 5 or 6 cars coming in and all of a sudden they're slowing down, you could technically back people up onto Tampa Road, which would become a safety concern.
Right.
I respect the residents' input on that, but we certainly don't want somebody creamed on Tampa Road because traffic is slowing down, turning in. So, okay, thank you. If there's no other discussion, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next item, approved Tuscany Woods Preserve Plat. This is approximately 10 acres located on the west side of Pine Avenue North and north of Forest Road. I believe all the council members are familiar with the project. There's 2 parts to it. This northern piece is the largest with 54 lot townhomes. I'd like to ask Marie Dauphiné, our Planning and Redevelopment Director, to give you a little more background. We are recommending approval of the plat tonight.
Mayor and Council, the City Manager gave you a pretty good overview. There's nothing really outstanding as far as this plat. It was reviewed by staff. It meets all plat conformity review requirements. The Planning Board recommended approval of the plat at the Planning Board meeting. But I'm available to answer any questions.
I have a question. Bruce, is this the second time we've approved a plat, or is this the initial?
We approved the site plan.
The rezoning.
That's right.
Well, this is kind of trying to find the horse after the gates open?
Well, it's a customary process.
Yeah, I know that. I always thought we did this before they started building the buildings out there. I guess not, though.
To get a CO, the plat has to be approved.
Why wouldn't we request this earlier? I'm for it, but this doesn't make any sense, because if we don't approve this plat tonight, what happens to all those buildings out there and those roads?
Well, basically, I think this is like more administrative, and it's
No, it
required
is.
by.
I know it is, but it's one of our ordinances, and it just I'm all for it. Okay, that's just.
I think the most important thing is, does it meet conformity review per the Florida statutes, and it does.
That's all.
But I guess his question is technically.
Well, the chairman of the planning board and the mayor signs the plat, so it has to be presented at a public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I do get your point that if we voted no, the horse is already out of the barn, kind of.
Well, the idea is that when it comes to you for review, there may be portions of the plat that's presented to you that is not acceptable. For example, an access road, a gated road, the size of a lot on a corner lot. There could be all sorts of different things that you would have input on. So it's not just a matter of the need for a rubber stamp. And by the way, you're not only besides your code requires it, the state statute requires it, and so you're going through this process, and that's why you rely upon this technical review, and you have to have a surveyor review it, and and make sure that it meets all the legal requirements. And so I just wanted to let you know, it's really not just a rubber stamp. It's,
Well, I know it's not a rubber stamp.
No,
Okay.
So I guess I asked the wrong question. Is this the same thing we approved?
Yes, because any changes to the site plan would have come back before the city council since you did approve the site plan,
But
right?
now
Or
when
the
we-
plan you
When we approved
development.
the site plan, didn't we request that an entrance be changed to align with the entrance on the opposite side of the street? Do you remember that? I don't know.
Oh, no, no, that's the other one. That's the
Yeah.
triangular piece in the
Oh,
corner.
that's the next one. Okay, all right.
And I think your argument is just even more appropriate at the next one, but that's fine.
I'm gonna ask that too.
I know, I'm sure you will. Thank you. I figured you would.
Okay, I have no issue with this then.
Do we need, I need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and council, item 14, approved Tuscany Woods Plat. This is the southern parcel located at the northwest corner of Forest Lakes Boulevard and Pine Avenue. It's about a 3 1/3 acre parcel, 26 lot townhome subdivision. As you know, Tuscany Woods is the same project. It's two separate pieces of property. And unless you have questions for Marie, we are recommending approval of the plat as presented. There are not any outstanding issues regarding the plat for Tuscany Woods South.
Why did the planning board vote against it? Did I see that?
That was my question. Is there any legal, Tom had mentioned that really it's about meeting legal requirements as part of the process, but did they object for any legal reasons? Do we know?
I don't know what the reasons were.
I believe there was some concern about, the two-story townhouses being able to look into the existing houses to the rear.
That's not a legal requirement of the
No,
plat.
it was just, they just wanted to make a point, apparently.
And did the entrance on this align with the entrance across the street? It does, okay, Lisa's saying yes, okay. And did we address, I think we talked about parking, for guest parking?
They were moving it up near the gate, I thought?
Yes.
I don't see that on this, though. Was there guest spaces?
Well, that's not marked on a plat.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not
it's
a-
the common area.
Probably more part of the site plan, not so much.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure they addressed those things that we discussed.
I thought, as I recall with the site plan, they aligned that road and moved the parking up they were gonna move some parking up by the gate somewhere up there.
Yeah, all the council's comments were addressed.
Good.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Motion, any second, any other discussion on this item? All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and council, the next item, consider approval of renewal of lease agreement with Oldsmar Cares Incorporated for city-owned property at 163 State Road 580 West. Proposed lease is for a term of 3 years. There's no changes from the existing lease other than the dates. The rent's $10 a year. The tenant, Oldsmar Cares, is responsible for the utilities and maintaining the building other than structural issues, like if it were to need a new roof, that would be our responsibility. If you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to respond to those. I recommend approval of the renewal of the lease with Oldsmar Cares for a 3-year period. It would start January 1st.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? I think we've built a great relationship with them, and I mean, I commend Oldsmar Cares for the work that they've done, and they continue to grow it. And, I think we discussed the Matty Hayes organization and trying to make sure that we don't overlap. And I mean, I think you're a great asset to the community, to the point that my friend that lives in Dunedin is going to try and start a Dunedin Cares, and, they're looking to you guys for the model. So it's a great thing. Doesn't really have anything to do with the lease, but I thought I'd throw that out there.
Dunedin Cares does exist. I incorporated it, and it was, the articles of incorporations were filed last week, and we got the corporate
Oh,
plan
good.
today.
Because I talked to them, that was about a month ago. I talked to the people to do that. So good. All right. Great.
done.
Well done. Did I have a motion and a second?
Yep.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and council, the next item, presentation on Pinellas County Mobility Management Plan. Marie Dauphiné, our Planning and Redevelopment Director, will make the presentation. It does not require any council action. The mobility plan has been under development now for, I think, over a year, and it goes before the county commission early 2015.
Thank you, Bruce. Before I go through some of the highlights of the mobility plan, I just wanted to go over a couple of terms that I think we're familiar with. The first is concurrency. The mobility plan is going to affect concurrency. Okay. So concurrency, it's based on the 1985 Growth Management Act, and it mandated that facilities and services that are needed for development must be available when the development occurs. And concurrency, we have level of service standards for transportation, potable water, sanitary sewers, solid waste, parks and recreation, and drainage. And every year, city staff does a presentation of, the annual concurrency test statement to the city council. So the mobility plan is only going to affect transportation of concurrency. It also is going to affect the transportation impact fee ordinance. And that's a countywide ordinance that was adopted, I think, in 1986. And it sets forth provisions that require that fees are paid for development projects that add new trips to surrounding roadway networks. So the transportation impact fee and transportation concurrency are the primary tools that the city uses to manage the traffic impacts of the development projects. In 2011, the Community Planning Act removed the transportation, the state-imposed transportation concurrency management requirements. And Pinellas County realizing, or the MPO realizing that we have a very densely populated county with the 24 municipalities, thought that we needed some kind of alternative to this concurrency management system that we had. So the MPO adopted the mobility plan in September 2013. So what is the mobility plan? It's a countywide approach to growth management. It emphasizes multimodal transportation, and it replaces local transportation concurrency. Some of the highlights of the mobility plan are the transportation impact fee now will be changed to, it's just going to be called multimodal impact fee. So it's just a name change. All the other requirements that were in place since 1986 will still be required. It's based on local comprehensive plans and the MPO long-range plans. So we will be coming back with amendments to our land development code and the comp plan to address this mobility plan. There's a tiered approach with the mobility plan. Basically, large-scale projects, they have divided it into two tiers. Tier 1 would be if a development project exceeds 51 to 300 trips, that would be considered Tier 1, and there's regulations. I'm going to go through that in a minute. Tier 2 would be projects that would generate more than 300 trips. And these are all on deficient roadways. In Oldsmar, there's a couple segments of roadways that are deficient. You can see Tampa Road, at State Road 580 to Curlew Road, it's the red. Forest Lakes at State Road 580 to Tampa Road, and also Forest Lakes Boulevard at Pine Avenue to Racetrack Road. So the county has designated this as a level of service F, and that means the demand exceeds the road capacity. Volume capacity ratios are also talked about in the mobility plan, and that is the capacity, the vehicle capacity exceeds what the roadway network can handle. So you can see the Tampa Road, the Forest Lakes, and the State Road 580. They're all at 0.9 or greater. The blue section, State Road 580, that coming over the bridge, that is actually a level of service D, I believe, but that would still be part of this mobility plan requirement to have a transportation management plan. So a transportation management plan for Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects, the developer would submit this plan at the site plan submittal, and they'd have to develop some kind of plan that would mitigate any kind of transportation impacts that would occur because of their development. It only applies to new trips, not they get credit for existing trips when redeveloping. And the strategies with the transportation management plan, that could be like access management improvements. It could be trails, sidewalks, intersection improvements. And so with the mobility plan, we will be required to make, as I said, comprehensive plan amendments, land development code amendments. After the county adopts in early 2015, we will be bringing this to the council for consideration. So if you have any questions, I will try to answer them. Try.
What did we accomplish here?
Okay, in a nutshell, we've just changed the transportation impact fee ordinance, and we're going to call it a multimodal impact fee ordinance, so we changed the name. And we're going to give development or developers an opportunity to mitigate transportation impacts instead of just paying the fee. They can make improvements like intersection improvements and trails and sidewalks, et cetera.
We didn't accomplish anything, have we?
Well, we didn't have trails, right?
Right, we didn't have sidewalks and
Same old
trails.
thing over and over and over, right?
Well, no, we didn't. We're just not including vehicle trips anymore. You know, we're looking at the whole.
At least they got rid of them.
Yes, in a sort of a way. We've just added more
Options.
modes of
It
transit.
expands the use of the money so that it's not restricted just to streets and roads. It can be used for sidewalks and trails and other transportation enhancements.
That's the important part of it.
Well, I think that's a benefit. Also, the fee schedule itself isn't changing. I mean, there were maybe two minor categories that were adjusted, but basically, there's no change in the fee schedule. I think people might be interested in knowing that also.
So developers will have more of an opportunity to actually make some improvements, not just pay the fee. And if the fee, if their improvements exceed whatever their calculated impact fee is, then they might not be required to pay that. So sometimes they want that. For example, Goodwill, they included another access on Commerce, and so that was something that benefited them. But also, the city had that in our in our capital improvements program.
What about that business we just talked about that I think you brought up, or maybe Jim brought up, that they didn't realize there was such a large transportation impact fee? Remember back off of
it was the
Douglas or in the industrial?
Sherman-Williams paint or something, I believe. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Well, that's been in effect since 1986.
Yeah.
So.
But would they be able to mitigate some of that fee by, say,
Well, that
adding
was
trails
some of the
in?
discussion that we had with them, but we did not have that in the capital improvements program. But it would be kind of discussion. But
They decided just to pay the transportation impact fee.
Okay.
It does at least give options, which I think is always agreed.
Well, and the city can't really waive the transportation impact fees. I mean, they're talking about this in the mobility plan, that you have to have technical data if you want to, reduce or waive the fee. And if you do not have this data, then they're kind of saying the city's on the hook to pay the transportation impact fee or multimodal.
Somebody's got to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thanks, Marie.
Because it affects the overall county at the end of the day.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you. Any questions?
No, thanks.
Thank you, as always.
Well, just a couple other points on that before we leave that subject. The ordinance is adopted by the county commission. It applies countywide, so whether you're building something in Oldsmar or St. Petersburg or Clearwater, the transportation impact fee, which now becomes the multimodal impact fee, is the same. And we collect the money for everything in the city limits. I mean, this is true for each or all of the cities, and the city keeps half of that, and the other half goes to the county. The county commission actually establishes the fee schedule in the ordinance. One other potential benefit, Marie mentioned this about we will probably need to do some revisions to our land development ordinance and comprehensive plan, and potentially I think we may be able to repeal our own transportation concurrency ordinance, because all that's going to be covered in this plan. Right. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is City Council. The first item, consider appointment to Oh, I'm sorry, City Clerk. I'm sorry, I flipped my page.
I don't have anything.
No, I see it down there. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to overlook you, Miss Nixon, especially with your husband in the audience.
The citizen of
Citizen of the Year, I apologize. It'll never happen again. It won't happen again this year, I promise.
Didn't he introduce you tonight as something like a Stefan or something like that?
I started to. I correct myself. It's taken me a while. First item is consider appointment to council seat 2. As we all know, Jim Roniker's term filling that seat expired. And so we have a couple of options. We can leave that seat empty. We can reappoint either Mr. Roniker or another party, or the candidate for seat 2, Mr. Saraki, has run unopposed and is qualified. So those are the options that we have before us to fill seat 5 or not fill seat 5.
You need to fill seat 5. You need to fill the seat.
Yeah.
Under that provision of
It
the
does need
charter,
to be
it
filled.
says that you shall do it within 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah.
So our options are either another party, Mayor or former Councilmember Roniker, or the person that's qualified for seat 2.
I recommend Mr. Saraki.
Mr. Saraki. Do I need a second? Do we need a sec, or even for discussion?
I talked to Bruce earlier too, and I asked about in the past, how it was usually, that's usually how it was done.
I was making some notes. Don Bohr,
Did we get a second? I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry, we did not get a second. Can we have a second for discussion?
Well, was that a motion or
Was
just
it a motion?
Okay.
Oh, it was a motion.
I didn't make that very
I'll
plain.
second.
That was a motion.
Okay. And it has happened. Don Bohr passed away, and Eric Seidel was unopposed, and then Greg Rubley moved away to New Zealand, I believe, and Jerry Beaverland ran unopposed for that seat. So it has been the precedent that has been set before. Mr. Saraki would only have basically 1 year if he started in March. This would give him 5 additional weeks to get up to speed for budgets and things like that. So any other thoughts?
Well, and with all due respect, I love you, Dan, and I just think that it might be an unfair advantage to Dan when he goes to run again. My suggestion would have been Jim, but I understand your points. Because we don't know who's gonna, of course, Eric is running, and we have two other people running for the other seat. So would that give Dan an unfair advantage over whoever wins for your seat, Jerry? I don't know. No, there's no unfair advantage or anything there.
No.
So that would be the only thing that I would be concerned about. I mean, I'm happy that you're gonna be joining us.
I'm just confused. Why would that be an unfair advantage?
I think she means giving them an additional
Giving
term
them the
versus when they
additional-
would be sworn
Oh,
in.
yeah. I mean, we're talking about.
Right, is it fair? My main question is would it be fair to whoever wins Jerry's seat, whoever wins seat 4, that we seat Dan? But if you guys say that this is precedent and we do it all the
Well,
time,
I mean, one of the differences is whoever fills Jerry's seat in 5 meetings.
4 after tonight?
No, it's 5 after tonight, so 5.5 really, but thanks for bringing that up. But whoever fills that seat's gonna have a 3-year term, so they're certainly gonna have a lot of tenure under their belt.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I mean, and this seat is only 1 year, and, it takes a little time to get up to speed.
Jerry may want to run again in a year.
If you were the one running on 4,
And you might
you
run-
would have been glad I brought it up.
You might run against Mr. Saraki in a year.
Him to hush up.
Okay, well, that was the only thing I was concerned about. Is it fair to whoever's going to win seat 4 if we let Dan get on the
No, I
board?
don't. I mean, I think they're
That's
independent
cool.
seats
I'm
of each
good with
other.
it then.
So.
I think it's great.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor for seating Mr. Saraki at our first meeting in January, what would the date be?
January 6th.
January 6th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're on.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Council, can I come up and do a couple spins in the chair?
Thank you very much. On the 6th, you can.
Thank you very much.
You've worked very hard for it, Dan. You deserve it.
Congratulations, Dan. You're lucky it was only needed 4/5.
Hey, I voted for it.
I know, but we're lucky we didn't need unanimous. Next item is consider the city clerk's annual compensation. Bruce, do you want to address that item?
Certainly. The council has a longstanding policy that if the charter officials receive a satisfactory or better evaluation from a majority of the council, then we would receive the same pay raise as other employees. And in the current budget year, that's 2.5%. And based on the evaluations that have been received, that would apply both to the city clerk and to myself. But of course, pay raise requires a vote of the city council. So based on the policy that you have, there would be a motion to approve an annual pay raise of 2.5% for the city clerk.
And I assume she did get her majority?
I believe that's correct, yes.
All 5 evaluations.
I actually turned in 2 evaluations. She,
One for Stefan, one for Nick.
no.
Why'd you do that?
She had given me the first one and I couldn't find it, so she gave me a second one. Well, while I was filling out, I was feeling mischievous and I gave her all 1s and handed it to her, and her chin dropped to the ground, and then I handed her the real one, so no.
That's just mean.
Exactly what I told her.
That's just mean.
No, she knows we all love her. It was all in fun. She knows that.
We know you kid.
Mayor, can I give you a little bit of background?
What if I say no?
Has he ever said no?
Bruce definitely knows about this one. Now, by the way, it just takes a 3/5 vote to give you the raise, not 4/5. Just want to bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
We can change it. It's not too late.
Years ago in 1990, and this has nothing to do with anything, but I think you should know why we do it this way. In 1990, when I got on council, the city charter officials got evaluated up here. Right, Bruce?
Oh, you mean in public?
Yes.
In public. And it was always it just irritated me so bad. And almost every council member started out by what was wrong, blah, 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 and blah, 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 and a blah, 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 and a blah, blah, blah. And then they would say, well, okay, I guess we can get whatever. When it comes to my turn, I wouldn't do it. I said, I am not going to chide a charter official in public like this. It's not fair and it's not right. Well, I got an editorial written about me in the St. Petersburg Times, and I really didn't give a rear end about their editorial because it wasn't right, because it was invariable, and he remembers this. It would start at the other end, and they would get chided. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do that between 4 walls in their office, and I will write it out. I said, but I will not ever do this in public. And that's how we started this. And it's the right thing to do.
There it is.
You don't chide your charter officials out here in public.
You don't do anybody in public. It irritates me when I go into I don't care if it's a fast food restaurant and the manager's yelling at the person right in front of the customers.
What about when he chides us?
Well, yeah. What about you yelling at us?
I've done that too, I guess.
Yeah, I know. No.
But anyway, that's how it happened. And we're going to do this tonight on a 3/5 vote.
Going to be
Which I think is the right thing to do.
Well, yeah. Well, it's going to have to be a majority, so it'll have to be a 3-to-1. Going to have to be. So, well, you do a great job. You know, I was only kidding with your humorous review, but I think, and we've said this, and that was part of the discussion earlier tonight. You know, the city clerk's office just continues to improve on a lot of levels, and you know, I know personally myself, you know, they do a great job helping me stay on track and keep myself organized and tell me that I need to wear a tie tonight. Thank you, Chris Tate, for the tree lighting. Thanks, Chris. But at any rate.
You're going to wear that one?
No, I didn't care what. I was going to, no, I didn't. No, she's lucky.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It's very festive.
But it's appropriate anyway, so you do a great job and much deserving. All in favor of her compensation?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Supermajority.
Supermajority. Next is consider the city manager's annual compensation. I think Bruce went over the criteria of the city clerk's compensation, and I believe, unless you want to add something else, the same criteria applies to your review as well.
It does, yeah. The policy applies to both of us.
Give him ones?
To get in his good graces again, I make the motion, we give it to him.
Oh, to get in his good graces.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? The same would apply, I say, to our city manager, and this gets brought up all the time. I think collectively as a whole, The city runs great. Not to leave Tom out as our city attorney, but they don't have to review you, I guess, so. But we do have a great team, and the leadership comes from the top, and I credit our city manager for giving that vision that we have. You know, I look at some of the projects that we have in Oldsmar, and I think Tom mentioned tonight that the continuity of the council is really important, and I think that shows in the projects that we've been able to accomplish. If you're changing city managers, you know, every 3, 4, 5 years, you know, it's really hard to keep momentum, and I think you've done a great job for that. I think, you know, the one that comes to mind is the water, you know, the water reclamation facility. That was started, how long ago, with purchasing that land? Probably 15 years ago?
98.
98, is that 15?
time.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's the vision of the city manager and to express that to the city council, and, you know, it obviously takes a collective effort, but.
And the water plant was his suggestion.
Yeah.
It come from nobody else.
It didn't come from Susan Latvala?
Nope.
Oops.
Was it being LEED certified your suggestion as well, Bruce?
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
We haven't voted yet on compensation.
No doubt about it.
He would rather us, he'd like us to vote first before he answers that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next is comments by council. We'll start with Mr. Five, left. Like Survivor, I feel like we're getting ready to.
You're gonna keep that up, aren't you? You're gonna give me a complex over here.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
I know somebody's eyes is gonna roll here, and it's gonna probably be Bruce, but I gotta bring this up again. The red light at Forest Lakes Boulevard and Tampa Road.
It's on my notes.
Is screwed up. It's really screwed up.
What can we do about this?
At 5 o'clock, at 5:30, people on Forest Lakes Boulevard that wants to turn left, 4 cars.
Oh, and that's if the guy in front is on, ready to go.
Right. And then you got people pulling out from JR's and from the drugstore. We've got a mess there. But at 5:30, 4 cars can turn left. No wonder people are running that red light.
Well, that's true. And I mean, the other component to that problem is the 580 turning left onto Forest Lakes Boulevard.
That makes
They let 30 cars through there, and then only four can go through. Case in point, I left your office today at 5:35. I literally had to cut through Walgreens, Chick-fil-A, and the whole thing, and come out of the Tires Plus parking lot to make a U-turn. I'd have never made it. You know, so I mean.
He knows where to park the car now and check for the.
I made a legal U-turn at the.
He bought something at Walgreens. He failed to mention that.
At Chick-fil-A, I needed dinner.
He's probably not lying. He
just
did.
changed his mind.
We need somebody up here to tell us what's going on.
Well, they were here. It's been over a year, probably.
He gave us his cell phone number, remember?
Oh, and
We were supposed to write
that thing
down.
never worked every time he called it.
But, you know, it's based on real time. It's what's happening now. Is they're adjusting themselves. I mean, there's not somebody.
It's based on
I mean, it's
volume.
monitored, but it's an interactive system. It's based on what is going on now. And the reason that those are short times that you mentioned is because you've got, at that time of the evening, probably 30,000 cars on Tampa Road.
Tampa Road
So they're
override.
moving those cars. And so if you're on that side street, you get moved 4 at a time. You might not like it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's the way it's designed, and it works.
Well,
it works to move the majority of cars.
But you got cars on Forest Lakes, and I won't say any more about it. You got cars on Forest Lakes Boulevard all the way back to the railroad tracks.
I always use racetrack. I never take Forest Lakes.
I've gone through the industrial park to come out by 7-Eleven before, just
I
because you can.
misread the day we closed
got a
commerce
white
right
car.
here because.
That's all I got to say about
Just
that.
one other thing. One thing it does is it consolidates, they become like schools of fish. That's not a traffic engineering term, but you know, they move in groups. And that's why you get such a long line, is because they're going to move that whole segment of, I don't know what the numbers are, I've never counted them, 50, 100 cars, then they can go all the way to Dunedin without stopping.
Oh, yeah, I mean, definitely that takes precedent over Forest Lakes, but is there any plans to widen Forest Lakes down the road?
Yeah, he said today.
No, that, not.
About the
Oh, that
southern
little
piece?
I'm talking
piece?
that segment.
Well, I don't think if there is, it's like 10 years down the road or something.
I do have to say in St. Pete though,
Oh, yeah.
I always brake and I forget that they change green as soon as you get close to them. I mean, the system they have in St. Pete is working very well.
Yeah, that's a very grid-based system. It works well down
Yeah.
there.
Number one, number two, can we not put in the water bills in one piece, all in red, warning, and educate the people in this town about the trash pickup and the trash they leave on the side of the road? I mean, we got a problem here. Today, or yesterday, yesterday, they leave garbage cans in the road. You got trash. I've got some neighbors that put up a big bunch of trash right out next to their garbage can. And you drive down St. Pete Drive, there's a huge bundle of limbs sitting on. And then we had a complaint about somebody that they wouldn't pick it up. Can we not do this and put it in writing in big red letters what the policy is on garbage and garbage cans? And then have Republic put the cans back right, or as far as Pine Avenue South, they've missed my side 5 weeks now.
You got your recycle bin now,
but
though,
that's
right?
okay, you know. But everybody's. I don't know if anybody anymore understands the garbage ordinances. I don't think none of us
It'd
do.
be good to do a refresher since it's coming up to Christmas and there's gonna be extra boxes and things out by the street and to
And
put
missed
a little
pickups,
note
yeah.
there,
Should be in
but-
the recycle bins.
But
It's probably time to do a reminder.
Okay, I appreciate that.
for Jerry's neighbor in particular, you wanna just.
Especially
what you should
Pine
do is
Avenue South.
Send him an email and say it's from the city council, like that one person did about the car.
Anything else?
Has anybody been watching our sunsets at night?
Oh, beautiful.
How can you miss him?
This,
Eric Seidel posted one from his dock. It was absolutely beautiful.
they're all beautiful. I mean, these sunsets are absolutely
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
God's wonderment, and in my case, I believe it's my son painting the sunset for me.
That's awesome.
I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and a Happy Hanukkah, okay? And again, we wish the Antozis and the Millers at this time of year, it's kind of a hard time. We wish you our hearts and our minds and and I want to wish all the candidates, do what you think you have to do. It's going to be an experience that you will not forget, right? Right? You've been doing it for quite a while. So I want to wish all the candidates good luck, and thank you all for who you are.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Oh, I'll be brief. The main thing I wanted to say was just our prayers still go out to Jerry and Tozy for losing Bill, and his service was just beautiful, and the place was packed, standing room only, and he was one of Oldsmar's favorite sons, as far as I'm concerned, and everybody that knew him. So that was just beautiful. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I am actually flying to Bethlehem on Christmas night.
Wow.
Seriously, I'm flying to Bethlehem because my family gets together on Christmas Eve.
You taking myrrh? What are you taking, gold?
And frankincense.
And Pennsylvania?
Yes,
or-
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My family here gets together on Christmas Eve, so I normally spend Christmas Day with, my boyfriend, and I go, and his son, who's like my son, and so they've moved. So I'm like, why don't I just fly up there on Christmas Day? I would be with them here anyway. So it struck me as kind of nice that I'll be flying on Christmas night to Bethlehem.
That's awesome.
So anyway, happy holidays. And all for everybody. I mean, personally, it's Merry Christmas for me, but I think everybody should be able to practice whatever faith they are and have the best holidays as well. So, and congratulations, Dan. And good luck, Eric, and your two opponents. I'm not sure I know that your two opponents, but good luck to everybody. And yes, Jerry is right. It's an experience, but it's well worth it because being up here is an honor. It really is. It's an honor to represent the public. That's it.
Councilmember McGee.
I'll actually be here for Christmas Day.
You will?
I'll be in town. I just got back Sunday from London and France, and that was just a really neat experience. I was really
Great photos on Facebook.
Yeah, real great.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't get any. I'm looking for someone's leftovers from Thanksgiving. If anyone has any, I would love to have some of that. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Congrats to Mike Hurley on his service award. I have to say that before I was on council when I first moved here, I went in there and bothered him all the time for maps and plat maps for the historic district. So, and he was so great. He's an awesome person and employee. So, congrats to him and to Dan as well. And happy birthday, Esteban. He already left.
He
but
left.
His birthday's on Friday. So, happy birthday to him, and that's all I have.
And I don't have, Jerry kind of took the one that I had. I don't know, I mean, and I respect that the system is kind of policing itself, but maybe then the approach is that we, try and get the county to move it up for closer on its, improvement plan. Is that something that we can at least bring up to them?
Sure.
And see, I mean, I don't.
Forest Lakes?
In 2017. I thought that was the last thing I
16
saw.
is the Forest Lakes to at Linebaugh, that one, from Forest, that one's gonna get widened, but I don't know. I'm with you, I think it's a lot further out for this segment. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, I'm not sure it's
You haven't seen it? I
any
haven't seen it on a
adopted plan or funded plan, maybe. You're talking about the segment between 580 and Tampa Road.
Correct. Yeah.
And
I
then
mean,
the business space there, I don't even know if you would have the space.
there's quite a
to
bit on
widen it.
on what I would call the west side of the road. There's a lot of right of way there. It's just a mess, and it's not, I don't see it getting any better. So, I don't know. If that's
Well, it would, if you, my suggestion, it would be you collectively, talking to county commissioners if you wanted something to happen. That's.
Yeah, and I think we just have a newly elected county commissioner from North County, so I think maybe I'll pay him a visit.
Mayor, why don't you do it under a letter, under your name?
Yeah, I actually would like to set up something with Bruce and maybe go meet the newly elected officials, and, that could be something that we discuss, or, I know Dave pretty well, so we could do that, or a letter, or a follow-up letter or something, because I think they may not know how bad it is, because they probably don't travel that at that time, but, and it's frustrating, and I think it's probably caused a lot of red lights, because if you're that fifth car in line,
He's going to go.
he's going, and I mean, it just creates a dangerous situation. The only other thing I had was, we all got the letter, but Estefan is gone, but congratulations to him. He got us $1,000 for Oldsmar Cares, actually. It was the Sheriff's Advisory Board Community Grant Program, and he worked on that and got $1,000, and, always working. I think that's great, and benefits a great charity in Oldsmar. I had a great Thanksgiving. Being single, my daughter sent me home with a big tray full of all kinds of stuff that I ate for the next week. So, but Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody, and can't think of anything else.
Mayor, one other
Yes.
thing.
Congratulations to Dane.
I think that if at least you should sing a happy birthday to our city attorney.
Did you forget him?
It's not in my list.
Happy
When's your birthday,
birthday,
Tom?
Tom.
Thank you, December 20th.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday to
dear
Tom.
Happy birthday to you, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. Oh, you know what, we forgot.
It's after 9 o'clock.
I bet none of your other municipalities do that for you, do they?
Tell you, and that was done by 4 council people.
That's right. Hey, you know what we forgot? To wish everybody a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, because our next council meeting's not until January, 6th?
January 6th, 2000.
We don't want to keep this going for the potential candidates that want to see how long we can make these meetings go.
Oh, it's after 9.
It's only 9.
Need a motion to approve the January 6, 2015 agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.